Welcome to Courtside Moms. I'm Wendy Sparks. Today, I have the absolute pleasure to introduce everybody to my new co-host, Miss Stephanie Folahan. So, Stephanie, what is it you want the audience to know about you?
I definitely want them to know that I'm a mom first. I'm a professional. I own my own business as well. I have a lot of balls in the air at all times, but my number one priority is certainly my kids. So joining this podcast with you, I hope to steal a bunch of tricks to raise some NBA players.
You know, you said the magic word, tricks. Because it's not easy raising professional athletes, right? There's a lot of things that you have to go through. And as a parent, there's a lot of things that you have to understand. So tell me, do your kids play basketball?
So I've got one 18-year-old. He plays. He's super invested, very competitive, playing at the highest level that he can at this point in his career. And then I have two 4-year-olds. One will be 5 in October. So my daughter, that's the middle child, she's super competitive at everything she does, from like cutting out balloons to coloring to running to like just anything you can think of. She does it with like this insane edge. And then I've got my baby, who is not showing much, interest in sports at this point. But, that's sort of like what we're struggling with, or trying to understand how much pressure to apply, how much to pull back on our daughter, or do we just hone in on how competitive she is? We just have so many questions and don't really know, how hard to go or how hard not to go.
Well, as a parent, I would suggest that your kids will find their own way. You know what I mean? Like, just let them develop their own love for sports, because at the end of the day, they're going to play what they're going to want to play, right? So I just think that we can just kind of, in the background, push them towards a little sport and see how it flows, right? So
Absolutely.
That's what I did.
Yeah. We have actually not taught the younger ones how to skate at all, because we don't want them to try hockey whatsoever. So we're trying to influence them a little bit towards a sport that we both love, my husband and I, and my older son as well, just because it's what we know and what we love. But, how hard do you pressure your kids to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah.
If they show interest in other sports that you don't necessarily love, or you have different information on, what do you do? There's obviously sports for fun.
Right.
And then there's sports for, career and really to take seriously. So we just we have no idea where to take it at this point.
Well, I have two boys, and they both play sports at a competitive level. Cam, as you know, who plays for the Orlando Magic, and then I have my son Dondre, who plays football for McGill Redmond in Montreal, as he attends McGill University right now. And growing up, I always put them in sports. And I guess the natural thing is you have boys, so it's just sports. And I put them in different sports to see what stuck. Now, Kim, believe it or not, who is now playing professional basketball, actually started playing basketball when he was young. And that was just because I thought, as a mom, that's what I should put him in, because he was naturally tall, only to find out that he absolutely hated basketball.
Oh, really?
Couldn't stand it. And
that's funny.
Yeah, well, for Cam, when he was playing, Cam is such a soft person, and for him, it's all about everybody else on the court, right? And the coaches, because they seen this big 7-year-old who looked like an 11-year-old on the court, the whole mentality was just pass the ball to Cam. And he didn't like that, because he's a team player, and he kept saying, I don't want to do that. I want to include everybody. I don't want to do this anymore. So then I started saying, okay, well, let's find him a different sport. And then he played football. And he absolutely loved football. Well, after year 3, the first 2 years he didn't like it. But after year 3, he started playing football and flourished in it. And then when I saw that, I put Dre in football, and he's another talent in football. Dre grew more in football, and then Cam just eventually fell out of football and then went to basketball by accident and just became this overnight success. I mean, that's a whole other story, but so it was just natural. It just happened organically, right? I just allowed them to find their love for sports. You know what I mean? They played baseball, they played soccer, but what they're doing now is what stuck. So where you have Kem, who went through the prep school level, well, high school, prep school, and then he went university, NBA. You have Dre, who was now finding his way through football and is doing, like, you know what I mean, like the same way. You never know. Maybe CFL or NFL will see him one day, right? But
Right. So my husband played at a high level as well. So he just gave me a ton of hope because not that we've written our 4-year-old off, but because he wasn't showing signs of being like an immediate NBA star, we were sort of like, okay, so maybe he's an artist, maybe he's an architect, maybe he's an accountant. You know, sort of, not that we'd lost hope in sports, but hadn't intended to really open that door as much as maybe we should be, allowing him to try some things out. Because not to pressure him, but I think like what you just said, where you just tried things with Kem, that maybe we should try instead of assuming like we have been with our youngest.
well, actually, let's go back and talk about your husband just a little bit.
Sure.
I actually met your husband years ago as he went to school with my son. So I believe I met him, I think it was graduation night.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And here he is, this tall, skinny dude, and it towered over everybody. And my son, yeah, Mom, this is Ming, and Ming, this is Cam. And then I met everybody else, all the other boys. And it was great to see the dynamics of the basketball and the team and what they did. And what's even nicer now is to see what they're doing now as adults. Some of them used their talent, some of them didn't. So I'm looking at your husband where now, you know, he's not playing professional basketball, but he's using his basketball skills to help others get to where he could have been, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk about your school a little bit.
Sure. So Halifax Prep, we started it about 4 years ago. And honestly, it's a labor of love and just true passion for my husband. I obviously manage the business side of things. Okay. I didn't go to prep school and don't have the experience that he has, and most people aren't trying to learn basketball from me at 5'9". I didn't do too much with it. But him, he's gone through prep school experience as well as played at a high level in college and then played professionally in Canada. So he has a really great resume, and he's just a fantastic person in general. So he's such a good role model for children, and he's got a lot to show and teach and pass on. So why not do something you love that can benefit other people and maybe even get them to a higher level than he got to.
Absolutely.
And that's his vision at the moment.
Well, it's good because he knows the steps that these athletes need to go to get where they need to be, right? So to me, you guys have this happy balance where he has the athletic side and here you have the business side, and you come together and you mesh, right? Because that's important. Because you have a lot of people that don't understand the business side, right? So basketball, essentially, professional basketball is a business. It's not just a sport. So it's not just getting on the court and bouncing the ball. It's really not about that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, well, how much you're going to get paid to do this and who is going to represent you. I mean, you got to represent yourself first as an athlete and have your brand and stuff, but who is going to help you get there? And a lot of people don't understand that. They just think that these basketball players, they just go. And that's not true. So it's good for the business. It's the same thing where you can take care of other avenues that Ming doesn't know. Because as a player, a lot of the times they don't know. They just go on the court and do what they got to do.
And he doesn't have any interest. I think that the business side of it could jade him and protecting him from what goes on behind, closed doors in the business side of it could take away from the passion on the court or, a relationship with a kid. So if I deal with, the hard side of the business part of it, which is sort of what I do every day in my own business, my other business as well, it's what I'm wired for. He's wired to just take these kids from, where they are now to the highest level that they can play. Doesn't mean the NBA, and that is the reality for most of these kids, that it isn't going to be the NBA. But if they can get, some level of free education with his assistance, then, we've achieved our goal.
And that's what it's about. It's about education first. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of players, well, now they understand because NCAA changed the rules back then. Actually, when they were in school together, they changed the rules where was a little, actually, hold on. No, it was a few years before that, where a player would have to go to college at least a year first before entering professional league, because you had a lot of players that knew nothing about business side. For them, it's, I want to get on the court and I just want to play. And fast forwarding with Kem, that's all he wanted to do. And I would say to him, okay, you have an agent now. You have to make this agent work for you. And he didn't understand that. He was more like, no, I'm getting on the court. He needs to do what he has to do. And I was telling him, yes, you're right. But you need to invest in your own self, because you are your own business. And you have to get that. And then you have to tell them what you want. And for him, it took a while to get used to the fact that, wait, I'm a business. I'm not just Kem Burge. And as a mom, I used to push him all the time and say, ask these questions. You have to know to ask. But no one's there to tell them these things. A lot of parents don't know.
Oh, there's so much, including myself, that parents don't know. I have some level of experience with the prep age, so that would be high school.
Right.
But my own kids, I'm at a loss. But just touching on a little bit more about what you said about Kem being a business, it's so early that they start out as a business, and parents don't even necessarily understand that the initial investment to go to a prep school is your startup cost for this business. So you're paying initially, but with intention that it pays off on the other side of that at some point.
Right.
So there's, that part I've got a good grasp on, but the first 15 years, I need your help, Wendy.
Well, when you're saying that they're paying for it, you're absolutely right. However, when I talk to parents and I talk about investing in their kids, it's not necessarily only financial, right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I was blessed with Kem where he was good enough to be offered all these national letter of intents. So he had tons of schools that were interested in him, and they were willing to offer him scholarships all over the place. But I was telling Kem, it's wonderful you're getting this scholarship, but we're going to use it for the education first, basketball second. So he was, you know what I mean? In his mind, it was different. But as a mom, I had to learn to invest in him, understanding how to get him where he is. I didn't just automatically assume that I knew. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like a lot of parents say, oh, I know my son better than everybody else. I did. I knew Kem better than all the people that were there, but I didn't know how to get him where people were saying that he should be. I had no NBA experience. You know what I mean? I came from Montreal in the community gym. I mean, we had like maybe 100 people in the gym, and that was like a successful basketball game, right? Well, it's true. You know what I mean? And then moving my kid to playing NCAA ball where there's like 18,000 people.
How old was he when you sent him away, when you let him go? When
14.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so 14 or 15. So, yeah, it was hard. But as a parent, I understood because I asked a lot of questions, and I found that it took a lot of people aback because they didn't expect it. They stereotyped to me as this particular mom who just, you know what I mean? Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of your son. And I said, tell them, no. I'll take care of my son. I'll decide where he's going to go. And sometimes they would make me feel like I'm standing in the way. And I figured, okay, if I'm standing in the way, then you're just not the agent for me, or you're not the coach for me, or you're not the team for me. See you bye. Because at the end of the day, I'm always going to be there. And a lot of them, we had a lot of pushback.
I can see that.
Oh, yeah. Because you always have these coaches that all of a sudden want to live through your kid. You know what I mean? Vicariously live through your kid, and all of a sudden want to call these schools and make these deals. I get this kid from Montreal. He's 6'10". He's, he's good, and he's gonna make it to the NBA one day because they're seeing dollar signs. And I remember saying to a coach, "You're counting this money before we are. Like, are you kidding?" And they just wanted to become these overnight success with my child. And to me, that was the operative word. He was still a child, and Kem, of course, he just wanted to play. He didn't care. He just like, I don't care how I get there. Just tell me what I got to do, Mom. You know what I mean? And I had to ask a lot of questions. But most of the time, I didn't know where to ask. So it's a trust factor, too, because you don't know who to trust. Like, you know what I mean? As soon as you ask somebody a question, they're the most trustworthy person. And, you know what I mean? They're just like the best person until you figure out, wait, hold on a second. I don't like what he said. So as a parent, I always say invest and ask questions. Never be afraid to ask a question, because putting your son or daughter in the wrong predicament is what's going to mess up their future.
It's not interesting, but not surprising that you mentioned trust. And I know you don't have any daughters, but I
do not.
have this whole other level of worry when I think about like the fact that you just said you sent your son away at 14, sending, out of our children, the one we think would be the one that has the potential to actually go away, sending my daughter, like just the fear, like I'm already feeling it, like I'm stressed and she's 4. There's, I know that there's statistics that say, everything, that can happen to both, male and female. I just have such a different stress about the responsibilities of parenting a daughter. And then imagine doing that under someone else's care in another country. Like, I have no answers, and I just don't even know where to go with that type of question.
Well, that's what I had to deal with, was sending my son off to the U.S., and I had to parent him over the phone. And then when I would hang up, he would have coaches telling him, don't worry about it, I got you, don't listen to your mom. And it caused a lot of conflict, because he would say what the coach said or somebody said, and I was like, okay, you tell them to call me. But it's funny, I never got a phone call. Like, no one ever called Wendy, because they knew. They knew. So there was a couple times where I had to get in the car, because I guess they didn't think I would.
And show up.
6 hours wasn't long, man. When it's your baby, God. 6 hours wasn't long. There's a few times I had to get in the car and show up to the front door and ring that bell and, hi. And they were like, oh, yes, you have any questions, ask it now.
Wow.
Yes, because you have to as a parent, because if not, people are going to take full advantage of your child. They will offer things to them that when you're looking, as a teenage boy, it's like, wow, thank you. As a mom, I would tell Cam, it's okay, I got you. I'll buy these things. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, where am I going to get the money to buy these shoes? But but you know what? I would raise the money if I had to, or whatever he needed. I used to tell him, I'm going to get it for you. And Cam was part of a team from Rhode Island. And one thing I loved about this coach is that he used to teach the kids to earn what you guys are going to get. He owned a chain of shoe stores all in New England state. And he kept saying to them, okay, I'm going to give you guys these shoes because you're my players. I'm going to give you guys the uniforms and the hats and all that. He says, but don't think you're going to get it for free just because you're my players. You guys are going to earn it. And the boys hated it at first. Right? They just thought, take the shoes and they go and that's it. And he's like, no. You guys are going to do this. You're going to do these activities. You're going to do this. You know what I mean? Because you need to learn that money, money doesn't just come out of the blue. Even for the NBA, he says you have to play for it. You're not just getting it. They don't give it to you because you're 6 foot and you're cute. They give it to you because of your skill. And that was what his mentality was. And at first, all the kids were like, no, I don't like this. But in the end, they were like, Kem said to me, I appreciate that. He says, because now I understand. I get it.
There's a different level of respect for something that you earn versus that's just given.
Yeah.
We talk about skin in the game all the time at our prep school, that, a kid that gets a full ride, often it works out great, but there is just sometimes that mentality that I can get that here, I can get that anywhere, and they're not as invested in themselves because it comes too easy. So I love the thought that coach made them work for it.
Well, you have to, and investing in themselves is like, I guess it's new, because like I said, a lot of players, they would just play. Where it's more to that. Now it's with social media being so big, you got to brand yourself properly, because if not, everything you do, people are on it like right away. Down from how many kids you have to digging in your closet, even making up closets. You know what I mean? Like, I would have players that I would talk to, and I'm like, so I heard, and he's like, who are you talking about? I'm like, I'm talking about you. And they're like, no, that didn't happen to me. It didn't happen to me, Mom. And I'm like, all right. And one thing I love is that a lot of the players would call me Mom, because they knew when I was coming at them with respect, because I understood where they were going from. I know their moms as well. So if their moms couldn't be there and I'm at the school, you know what I mean? They knew, like, okay, they knew that they can call me and I would help them. And it's important because we have to look out for each other.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Because some of these kids are so impressioned and they just want to make it to the dream. You know what I mean? The dream is the league and just to play in the NBA. And I used to tell them, okay, if you can't make it to the NBA, there's basketball you can play elsewhere. There's other things you can do. You can make money. Like, imagine making money doing what you love the most, playing basketball. And I find a lot of parents don't understand that sports, you can actually make money from playing sports. However, not everybody makes money from playing sports, right? You have 1% of NCAA players that actually make it to the NBA.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 1%. So you have the parents whose kids are good, but yet they put their kids on this 100% pedestal and they got 50% talent. And then you have these parents whose kid got 100% talent and the parents don't know anything, right? And they don't go to the right places. They're too busy living vicariously through their dreams. And then everybody's shocked 5 years later that the parents at home and the kids sitting next to them watching a game. You know what I mean? It's because you took over as a parent and didn't know and you didn't pay attention. So I always tell students, you know what I mean, or players, look, guys, you have to know your brand. You have to understand who you are first before you can actually even get out on the court. Because it's not just about being a player, it's about being a human. You're still growing as a human being. You're still growing as a player, and then you become a father or a husband first, you'd think, or a wife first, you know what I mean?
Doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Ming and I loved 2 weeks before Deja was born.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of these players have a lot of interest.
Interesting setups.
Ooh, yeah, they have a lot of, anyway. I remember going to I used to go to watch Kem play at UNLV, and I used to laugh. And I'm like, how come there's 12 players, but there's 40 girls? Like, where do they come from? Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it is, and it's funny. And I used to sit in the stands, and they would think that I'm one of them.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, they would think, I'm like, you know what I mean? They would think I'm one of the girls chilling and waiting, and they're all sitting there talking. Okay, I like this person, I like this guy, I like this guy at the end of the game. And I used to laugh, and I'm like, okay, you like everybody but this one. You know? I was that mom. Oh, yeah, I didn't care because I figured you got to protect your child, right? Because they don't know. Everybody wants to be that jock. Everybody wants to be that cool player who has a girlfriend. You know what I mean? Because for some reason it gives them status.
That's true.
I don't know what status it gives them, but anyway, for them, and it's normal, right? I guess in any sport, in anything, as a teenage boy, right?
Yeah.
And so as a parent, you're fighting against that because here I'm raising my son. I'm in Montreal. My son's in Vegas. You know what I mean? And he's just living as a teenage kid, but I have these coaches raising him. So here I have men raising him, which is fine. But what I'm saying is they look at things differently than women. You know what I mean?
Course.
There's no nurture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not the same. I'm like, did you eat? You know what I mean? And Kim's like, what? But yet I would call the coach and say, did he eat? And he's like, I don't know. You know, nobody cared. Nobody cared. And years later, now doing these interviews with the moms, we find out that the players do appreciate the nurturing that they kind of missed those couple of years that they were playing college ball, right? So it's so important as a mom and as a dad, you're always there. You know what I mean? It's just not about it's not about the ball. It's about raising adults, raising human beings, because the basketball's not going to be there forever.
That's true. My oldest son is sort of coming to that realization that, you know, I might have a year left. So he's going to play for Halifax Prep this year.
Good.
And looking towards like, okay, I thought I was going to the NBA for the last 5 years, and now I'm realizing I'm 5'11". I'm dedicated at like a medium level, but I have other interests too. So what do I do with that? He's, got a bit of a talent for like statistic analysis and more of the business side. And rather than being disappointed and frustrated that, his career may be coming to an end, or he'll be playing in the men's senior leagues with Kurt and these guys in 2 years instead of the NBA as planned, he can still make a great living. There's something associated with it. Or, just the education portion that he received as he went through. He's going to get the opportunity to use that and do something that he loves and maybe didn't even realize he loved until recently. I would say the last 6 months that he started like really getting into this.
Yeah.
But he's not going to come out of, his last season depressed and feeling like a failure, which I initially sort of thought that was the direction we were going. Huge disappointment and letdown, and one gap year turns into 5. And then no direction, right? So, we've got, really lucky in the last 6 months that he's sort of found this hidden talent that he had. So he's going to play basketball, but he's going to work on some accounting stuff and other things to work on that skill over the next year as well.
And that goes back to what we were saying, education first, right?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like they have to have something to fall back on. my youngest one, like this, I call him he's going to be my self-made millionaire, because this kid, he is so different. Like, my boys are like night and day. Well, Cameron's very quiet. Cameron just enters the room and he's just like, okay, I could say, yeah, that's it. I'm here and I'm going to go sit there. Or Dre will enter the room and he's like, I'm here. I'm going to sit on that chair, but I want to know who made the chair, who manufactured the chair, where the chair come from, what color is the chair, who chose the color. Like, he's very, like, he asks questions, right?
Yeah.
So he's that one that'll get out there and have a business and run a business because it interests him, where Cameron doesn't really interest him. Cameron's like the talent and Dre's the business. You know what I mean? So I tell Dre all the time, I said, you're at McGill University, right now, and he's in e-commerce.
Oh, good.
And he was in law first, and then he decided e-commerce. And I'm like, well, good for you. At first, I was like, every player is going to need a lawyer, so you're going to be within sports anyway.
Yeah.
And e-commerce, so he can be a financial analysis. You know what I mean? Like, he can help a financial advisor for players, for example, and help them with things, or he can run a business. And that is so interesting to me. And that's my field, so this is where, you know what I mean? Dre and I will have conversations, and I'm like, okay, maybe you might not play football professionally, but it doesn't mean that you can't work for players within sports. So it's not necessarily always about throwing that ball across the field as a football player, or bouncing the ball, you know what I mean, as an NBA player. So there's different avenues. So
that's where we're at, exact same spot with Jonah, just wanting to find a passion, and if there's a little bit of basketball connected to it, that works out too. But that transition from the dream to reality, gently.
Yeah, well,
not to burst the bubble.
Well,
we didn't meet you soon enough.
Not,
so the
oh
other
my
two,
goodness.
they've got hope.
It wasn't easy, and if it's easy, then it's not
Everyone
right.
would do it.
You know what? That's true. It's like when people say, well, do this, it's common sense. Oh, please. If sense were common, we would all have it. So that's not true, one bit. And it's just taking time, and it's to listen and learn. And that's what took me a couple of years to learn. You know what I mean? Made mistakes along the way. You know what I mean? Shows some people in Chem's circle that at the beginning, I'm like, well, they said, so let me try this out. But a lot of things you only know after you try it. And that's in anything, not just being a parent or not just being an actual player. There's mistakes that Chem made, right? But again, it is what it is, and in anything in life we're gonna learn. I mean, you fall and you just get back up. Like, Chem went undrafted, and that was devastating, because for me, looking at the lead up to the draft, let me tell you, those are the worst couple of months ever, because Cam was working, hard. And everybody says, oh, my son was working hard. And I'm like, yes, everybody's child's working hard, but I'm talking about mine. I seen Cam go across the states and go from trainer to trainer, and his body was worn out and he was exhausted. And after a hardcore 2-3 hour training, sometimes 2-day trainings, you know what I mean? He would have to get on the plane and go somewhere else and do that for months, only to be undrafted. And when he left his school, the decision was, do you leave or do you stay? And someone said, I think he should stay another year. But because a lot of the politics is like, no, I think he should go. So we knew there was a chance that he wouldn't be drafted, but it's still devastating nonetheless, right?
Of course.
Because Cam, at the end of the day, he didn't care. To him, it's like, okay, I'm number one at UNLV. All right, everything is great. And then on, you know what I mean? And then 2014, his name never got called. And we sat there for hours and hours and hours, and nothing. That's nothing. Tough. And then we're calling, like, don't worry, he's number 52. And I'm 52. Yeah, they told me 52. Raptors, actually. And they said to me, yeah, don't worry, they're going to choose Cam. Wait, it's 54, wait. So I'm like, And the night's over. And Cam was sitting there just like, I can't believe I didn't get drafted. But I think he knew now, when we're like 31, 32, 33, right? He was like, no, this isn't going to happen. But he didn't want to believe it. Nobody wanted to believe it, because here we're all in Brooklyn and we're all sitting there in the hotel and we're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is not going to happen. So now I'm calling and I'm like, okay, well, what do we do? It's not the end of the road.
No.
But for him, it was the end of the road. And for me, I'm like, okay, so what do we do? I don't know what to do. I only knew what to do up to that point. Like, you know what I mean? I knew
Yeah.
like all the investments that we did and all the resources that I had up until then ended on draft night. Nobody said, okay, after draft night, this is what'll happen. No idea. Because for us, it was like, yo, you're going to make a team. Don't worry about it. You're going to make a team. But they tell you what you want to hear. And all these people that tell you that now, draft night, I'm like, where's so-and-so? And then they're long gone with a player that got drafted. So now you're left by yourself, right? You know what I mean? So now I'm like talking to his agent at the time, and I'm like, okay, what do we do? And he's like, okay, I'm on it. But it was still devastating, right? Because
Of course.
you know what I mean? And okay, we're gonna try you again. We're gonna try, and Cam, he played in the summer league. He played Washington Wizards, Brooklyn Nets, Miami Heat. Got signed with the Miami Heat, and then got waived October 1st. Another devastation, right? So it was kind of, something told me, I was like, oh my God. And when he called me that day, I was like, it's okay, Cam. It's gonna happen. So to me, to tell your son, just throw it in the universe. You know what I mean? Never think that I'm not going to do it, but just believe in yourself. You can do what you want to do, right?
Oh, of course.
It may not happen 100% the way you want it to work, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to work. So for me, I wish your son all the luck in the world. I really hope that he gets to do what he wants to do. And for you, I'm so happy that you're on board with us. And I can't wait for you to meet the moms and just learn from us, learn their stories, and let us learn about you and your story. Because you can teach us too. Just because my son's in the NBA doesn't mean that you can't teach me.
You got a long way to go, Wendy.
Listen, you have a lot of knowledge that can enter into my brain. You know what I mean? You can share that with me. So I'm so happy that you're here. And we look forward to doing more episodes with you.
Thanks, Wendy.
I'm every woman. It's all in me. Anything you want done, baby.